Okay, distance learners, you can say hi to everyone.
What's up? Saturday for the boys.
Allison, what are you? They're on my feet.
So we just went through the presidents. And so you need to know the first 20. Chase has already done that. He's got 100 on his quiz already.
Yes.
Today then we're going to talk about the project that's due on January 11th. So if we went to our, the other thing we need to do is when you don't see something on here like notes that you were looking for, you contact Mr. Hale and say, Mr. Hale, do you have any notes that we could also check out? Okay? Now, so we're going to go up here to the Invention Project. We click on it, and here is the explanation, and also how you're getting graded on it. Okay? So, before I do this, let's talk about why do people invent things?
To make life easier.
Inventions are supposed to make life easier. Very good. What else?
To get more profits.
What'd you say?
To get more profits.
Well, some people do it just to make money, yeah. Thomas Edison said he didn't want to invent something if it didn't make money, or at least wasn't practical. So he wanted it to be practical. Oops. What else? Well, let's look then. You see a need in the world, and you want to solve that need or meet that need, or you see a problem in the world, and you want to solve that problem. So that's your goal. You're going to think of, now the good thing about your invention project is the sky's the limit. So we're not going to be limited by technology and resources. You get to use your imaginations. Okay? You get to use your imaginations for it. So you're going to design an invention, make a drawing of your invention on a sheet of paper the size of your Google document. So just like your test. So this big a paper. No lines on it though. Right? You're going to have a typed description all on that one page. So I don't want the invention on one page and your description on another page. I want it all on one page. So what your invention does, how it works, what does it cost, what are the advantages of your invention, what are the disadvantages, and any other extra information you have. Your name's going to be in the bottom right-hand corner of the paper. If you actually make a working model of your invention, you could get bonus points. So, graded. You're getting graded on originality. What does that mean?
It's real. It's the first one.
That means somebody already doesn't have that idea. What's a good way to find that out? So if you have your idea, all you have to do is type in Google and come up. And if you see 5 things come up, what?
Don't do it.
That's not going to be original idea. It's somebody else's idea. Because that's what I do when I grade them. I type in Google, your idea, and then I look to see how many people have that idea. If I didn't already know it, that idea was out there. Okay? You get great on color and neatness. Now, you don't have to, you can use the computer to draw if you want. You can actually put in a clip art picture or something of something that matches it. Of course, if you do that, you're gonna what?
Not have originality.
That's losing points on originality. Although, I wouldn't take any points off originality if you combine clip arts and organize it to make it. Because you know that my drawings are somewhat distorted. Okay? But I am very good at organizing. So I could organize a drawing from other people's drawings, and that would be what? That would be original then. That makes sense? So then spelling, grammar, and punctuation when you write it, I notice that a lot of people, when they type stuff up, they're typing like they're texting people. So what tends to be lost?
Capitalization.
Capitalizing words, punctuation, okay, having a subject and a verb, all that should be part of your description, okay? Needs to be practical and logical. What does that mean?
Like it's easier to use.
In other words, it should make your life easier, not more complicated. The invention might be a cool, wonderful thing, but if it caused more problem than actually doing the thing, then what? It's not very practical. It's not very useful. Okay? And then following directions means you did all the things that are up here. Only on one page, okay? Name in the bottom right-hand corner. Now, how do you put your name, how do you get your name? This is a problem some people had when they're working with a Google document. Okay? When you're working with a Google document, when you want to get text anywhere you want to put it, you know what you do? Who knows? Joey, do you know? Okay, so I'm going to go to a Google document. Let's see how many steps. Let's go. This one. That's not gonna work. So if I type on this, it's only going to type where the cursor is. And I want to get the cursor over here, or I want to have freedom to put my text anywhere I want to. How do you get your text anywhere you want to?
Enter and space.
The best way is to do a text box. Now on Word, if you did a Word document, it allows you to insert a text box right onto the Word document. Google doesn't let you do that. I have to do what? I have to insert a drawing. So I go to insert drawing and push new, and here I'm on the drawing page. This is also how you could make your own drawing and then paste it onto your document, and you can put it anywhere then. You can move it around. Okay? But under this, you notice right here, it says text box. So I can do a text box here, I can type right here, and then I save it and close it. Okay, and it's gonna put it on here. Now the way you move it, when it's on here, is you click this box right here, wrap text. Now, I can drag that wherever I want. Okay? So when you're doing your description, I suggest you do your description like this in a text box. Because then you might say, oh, I'd like to have my drawing here, and I'd like to move this over here and do it that way. Everybody understand that? So that's the way you could get your text onto the paper. So what you want to think about, and you probably saw some in the hallway last year, let me tell you one of the inventions I would want for myself. I would want a grading machine. And all I have to do, so like these tests, instead of me taking all the time to go through and read each one and grade them all, I'd like to be able to have a machine that I can just stick into the machine and what? Press start.
Grades for you.
It grades it all out, spits it all out, even records it on TADs for me. So then I'd have to, my description, I explain how all that works. Okay? Then I'd have to do a drawing of it. And I have to think about a cost. Now this is the practical, logical part too. So if I say, oh, that's $9.95 cost, does that sound what?
No. That's it.
That's not practical, okay? That's not a logical number. The amount of resources it would take to produce that machine, okay? So you're talking about materials and manpower and things to make that, the technology involved. It's not gonna be that cheap. So that's where you can think about practical and logical things. So then I'd make a drawing of what my grading machine would look like. It'd have an opening in here that went in, and it'd have all these buttons. And I could click a button for essays. That would be that'd be the best one, the essay one. Instead of my normal way, you know how I normally grade essays? I showed you that before, haven't I? Okay, I have a ladder at home. It's an 8-foot ladder. So you put the ladder up like this, and then right below the ladder, I draw a big circle like this, and then I draw a circle like this, and then I draw a circle like that.
Oh, A, B, C.
So then you just get on top of the ladder and you drop them. Yeah, the ones that land here get A's, ones on here get B's, ones in here get C's, and these people get B's. That's Mr. Hale's grading machine. But that's what? That's not fair. Does anybody have a question about that project? Joey?
You said, okay, so the rules say it's gotta be logical, but you said earlier that the sky's the limit.
Yeah. Yeah, so do we have the technology to produce this?
No.
If we did, what?
It would be illegal.
It'd be made. Teachers would want it all over the place. So logically, it can't be done. I mean, does this make logical sense though?
Yeah.
Okay? Is it a practical thing?
Yeah.
Is it gonna make my life easier?
Yeah.
Okay? Now, so I use this example, and then I had so many students last year said, oh, I want to do a homework completing machine. So they just copied my idea. Don't do that. Come up with your own idea. So either a problem or a need or some issue you have in your life that you could come up with a solution to. And I really would avoid going to Google and typing in inventions, because why?
It's not
Because
real.
then
It's gonna be somebody else's idea. Come up with the idea. First of all, the first key is to find out what bugs you. Or what problem is there out there?
Shut up.
And then that's when you're gonna say, okay, what can be a solution to it? Can an invention be a solution to that? I got all kinds of things that bug me. I'm waiting for I won't give you any more ideas. You want another idea?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
I'm waiting for a chewing gum that brushes your teeth.
Oh,
That'd be good.
So I could just chew gum all day and never have to what? Never have to brush my teeth. We probably wouldn't have that rule then at school, not to have gum, right? So I'm just brushing my teeth, Mr. Hale. So all those little things that, maybe things that you hate to do all the time, or whatever, that your machine can solve it for you. Does everybody understand? So that's the project, and it's due when we get back. Now the bad part about that, again, is what usually happens over vacation time.
You forget about everything.
You forget about it. Now, we will have distance learning for a week, and I'll remind you during our distance learning, hey, you working on this, but we're also going to be going through the chapter. Okay? You don't have to. You don't have to. But I'm saying that means you have what?
1 week.
1 week to do it.
Oh.
Plus whatever other assignments you're working on. Because you're going to get assignments in every class. But it will be like in live, in-person learning, because so social studies, how many assignments will we have? How many classes?
3.
In distance learning, how many classes?
Like
2.
2. There's 4 days. We're going to have one every other day. So religion will have what?
2.
2. The ones you'll have one every day would be what?
Language arts and math.
Language arts and math. Okay, all the other ones, you'll only have no more than 2. And I think music and Spanish, it's only 1.
Yeah.
Okay? Quiet, it's none. Go play in the snow. That isn't there.
Sledding down
Without snow.
with no snow.
Okay,
Me?
turn to 609.
I have to do it.
The good news and bad news. If you did it, if you get 100 on this, I'm going to give you bonus points.
Okay, thank you.
If you didn't do it, you're lucky because it's not counting.
Yes.
Because I looked at some of these questions and they're covering an area that we're going to cover in a different time chapter. Like the first question. So let's open it. If you did it, open it. If you think you're going to get 100% on it. 'Cause you got to have 100 to get bonus points.
Did you what?
3.
What are we doing?
If you get 100 on this, I'm going to give you 3 bonus points.
And there's no other way to go.
There's no other way to get bonus points on this.
We're going to page 609.
You're taking out 609.
And if you didn't do it, it doesn't.
I changed it on Google to bonus. I did change that. I didn't put notes on the West,
Yeah, I
but I
saw
did
that.
change that. I'll try to remember to put notes on the Industrial Revolution.
Emily, what page is that? 609. No, but what page is the picture on?
I don't know.
So you know, our distance learning, we have our Zoom meeting for distance learning for social studies is on Wednesday on distance learning. So that's when you're going to get an assignment. That will be due on Friday. And then religion, we're having a Zoom meeting on Friday, but we're going to have an assignment in religion on Monday. Okay? Does that make sense? So number 1. Which of the following intended to accomplish changes listed in American society? This is the part that number 1 is a question we're going to study in a different section, a different chapter. Joey.
I put B.
B, the Populist Party is correct. So we're going to talk about the Populist Party in a different section. So those that are retaking the test, you don't have to worry about the Populist Party on the test on the West. 2, the goal of many reformers who wanted to help Native Americans in the late 1800s was A, get Indians to adopt the ways of white people. A. What's that called? Ben. Assimilation.
What is?
Or next year we're going to learn where it's 4, son, it's called acculturation. Number 3, what played the most important part in the growth of the West population and economy between 1865 and 1900? Greta,
D.
what did you say?
D.
D, the railroad, correct. Why? Ben.
The railroad got them over there faster.
But they're saying growth of the West population. Why would the population grow in the West?
with the feeder lines that led into towns to increase the population. in
Plus,
towns.
they had all this extra land that they did what?
Didn't want and got food.
They sold it to farmers, and farmers came out and settled the West, okay? Also, the economy improved because they helped what take off?
Business.
Cows, yes, the cattle industry take off. They really moved to the West.
Wow.
Number 4, in general, the policy of the United States government toward Native Americans in the West was to B, move them onto reservations and open their homeland to white settlers. B. Number 5, the biggest problem facing Western farmers in the late 1800s was C, overproduction and low crop prices. Why did they overproduce?
Because they over.
They like seeing the crop grow.
Yes, what else helped them to overproduce? What helped them to overproduce? Question some people missed on the test. These new machines. The new machines help them overproduce. Read the following speech from the Comanche chief and use it to answer the question below. Why does Tin Bears not want to move to a reservation? Because he could not continue the way he normally lived there.
That's literally what
Anybody get the bonus? You got them all right?
I mean, I got it all right, but
I
You gotta have everyone right. If you have a question on whether you got one right, like the last one,
yeah, I've got a question.
what'd you put?
I put because he doesn't want to be cooped up and trapped inside walls, and he was born in his homeland.
Okay.
Yay.
I put because I didn't feel his way of life. I already said.
Yeah, that's what.
Andrew.
I said because his life is within ancestors and traditions. You have to get all of it right.
Yes.
I did.
Ben.
Because he grew up there.
Yeah, it says I'm already. See?
Yes.
Okay, then I got the.
I got the banana.
Raise your hand if you got 3 bonus.
So is that
I get it.
if we get them all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I have an 80 in social studies, so that's
This is not 3 onto your average, this is 3 onto daily, okay?
That's a B.
Andrew, Allison,
Yeah, I said it was a B.
Joey, Greta, Ben, Gianna, Ryder, Bella. Now, we have already talked about this here, this term, right?
Yes.
Yep.
What does this mean?
It means, like machinery revolution.
That's not
what it is. No, what it is.
Raise your hand, what does it mean? Joey,
The machines that were invented to help people make money.
I was just about to say that.
revolution means what?
Time.
Solution.
Change.
Revolution means change. Something changed. What changed?
The change from manual work to machine.
Okay, hand labor
To
to machine labor. The time period we're talking about is the industrial age. Sometimes it's called the second industrial revolution. This first one happened where? Ewan, where did the first industrial revolution happen?
Before the Civil War.
Not when, where?
The South.
I'm giving you a strong help. There's a reason I called on you. Okay? The first industrial revolution happened in Great Britain. This is what we studied on our packet at the beginning of the year. Who brought it to the US?
Henry Clay.
Samuel.
Slater.
Samuel Slater brought it to US. Because he had a what? Photographic mind. He memorized all the machines. And he started his own factory in New England. That's not the time period we're talking about here, okay? We're talking about the turn of the century, the mid-1800s to the early 1900s, or the latter part. What year, what century is that? What century is the 1900s? Or the 1800s, excuse me.
18.
No,
19.
17.
it's the 19th century. Okay? What century are we in? We're in the 21st century. So in the 19th century, that's the time period we're talking about, where all these new machines, and this one, okay, the first one started in Great Britain, the second one started where?
Spain.
Here, okay? The second one started here. And the title of your chapter, if you go to page 610, you go to page 610, the title says The Industrial Age. That's the time period we're talking about. So the first section deals with the inventors and inventions. And we have talked about this guy, one of the most famous inventors of all. What's his name?
Benjamin Franklin.
George Washington.
Benjamin Franklin would have been part of an earlier
Einstein.
revolution, okay?
Thomas Edison.
Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison is called the Wizard of Menlo Park because he came up with an invention. Now, what you want to do once you have your idea is you want to get a patent.
My dad's got like
Whatever the.
Okay? What's a patent do?
Like reserves your brand, like your brand.
So, a patent protects your idea. So that means if people copy my idea, what?
I can sue them.
I can sue them to tell them to stop, or I can sue them to what?
Give me the money.
You have to pay me money for using my idea. So when you come up with your invention, you want to get, how long does this last, you know?
ever.
Doesn't last forever.
50 years.
2 months.
20 years.
Lasts for 17 years.
Oh.
What happens after 17 years?
Other people can start.
Renew it.
You got to renew it,
Yes.
okay? So the number of patents you have gives an indication of how good of what? Inventor you were. And Thomas Edison had the most of any inventor. Write down a number, what you think it is.
Okay. Let's see.
How many patents do you think Thomas Edison had?
Hold on.
I told you he had the most of any inventor.
Okay, I have 4 numbers. I have 5.
My dad is.
128. Everybody got a number written down?
Hold on.
Wait, I'm thinking about it.
Winner gets a prize.
Yeah, whoever's the closest.
Whoever closest.
Okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
That's the idea.
Okay, Christian.
Wait.
I put 19. 120 or 130. I mean.
Whoa. 145. I mean 30. Yeah.
36.
47. 1,000.
15.
1,000.
What?
52.
Okay. It's logical to think about when he started and we're still using it.
The winner is.
Come on, dog.
I've been having to stay up ready. Okay, I think it's because Mr. Hill's staring at me.
You said everything. Knew it.
What?
Benjamin.
Okay, my second guess.
What did you
My
guys?
second guess was
1,000.
I guess 1,000.
One's okay, well,
He's the closest. How many think he's too high?
18.
Stand up if you think he's too high.
Oh boy.
I don't.
I think it's too low.
Guys, back.
Stand up if you think he's too low.
I honestly think it's too low.
Really just a so round.
Oh.
Yeah, but
1,093 patents.
My second guess was 1,000.
yeah, well, wait, 1,093 times 17?
Let me see.
Okay?
Same, mine was 17. What was his invention?
Is,
His friends and family called him Al or Alva. He was a sickly child growing up. His school formal education at actual school amounted to 3 months in an elementary school because he was considered to be odd and he was made fun of. And he was sickly, so he stayed home a lot. So then the rest of his education he was homeschooled. The first distance learners, although they had not distance learners because they had no association with the school. My children were homeschooled till they were in 5th grade, or various.
What? That's 18,581 years.
In his youth, he developed a loathing for cleanliness, one which stuck with him all his days. Never in his life did he take more than 1 bath a week. He loved to chew tobacco, and oftentimes the juice dribbled down his chin. And that's why because this was a common thing during the time period in the 1800s. People, men, would chew tobacco and put it between your cheek and your gum, and so it gets juices in there, and then you'd have to spit them out. Most places, public places, had a spittoon. You might have seen some of those before. So they kind of have an opening like this, and then it has a big jar like that. Looks kind of like a vase, but they're called spittoons. They made them. So people come up and they would spit into the spittoons. But he didn't even bother to do that. They asked him, why don't you bother spitting into the spittoon? He said, well, there's no chance of missing if you hit the floor. Physical labor he didn't like to do. Like his father was a farmer. He once told his son to go plant turnips in his field. Okay? And he got done in a couple hours because he spaced the turnips 20 feet apart. So even for the light bulb, in fact, we read a thing today in our devotional for 8th grade about Thomas Edison, that he had over 6,000 failures of his most famous invention. What's his most famous invention? A light bulb. He had over 6,000 failures. But he what? Kept going. He never gave up. Okay? Failure was not an option for him. Okay? He hardly ever slept, or oftentimes he took cat naps. He'd sleep on top of the laboratory table. But that's also probably why he was a difficult person to work for. Because he'd go into these, somebody screwed up, he'd ream them all out for a minute and then move on. Probably Like what happens to us when we get lack of sleep?
Frankie.
We get cranky. But he did have a disability that actually he considered to be a blessing. You know what his disability was? He was virtually deaf. Why would he consider that to be a blessing?
Take care of other people or distractions.
So then he could focus on his ideas. And he didn't invent the hearing aid and wasn't upset about it, and he only used the hearing aid when he did his favorite activity. Another unusual thing you probably don't know about Edison. You know what Edison's favorite activity was?
Cool.
You wouldn't catch Mr. Hale there probably.
Racquetball.
The opera. Anybody been to the opera? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
Some people enjoy it, some people don't. I probably enjoy the fanfare of it all. But that classical type of music is not my favorite. So here's some of his inventions, okay? 389 of his patents dealt with like the light bulb and electronic light and power. 195 dealt with the phonograph. Who knows what the phonograph is?
Oh, I've heard of it. I don't remember though.
Some people still have them.
Is it like the music maker?
So, the phonograph was like a record player.
Yeah.
Some of you might have been to, your grandparents might have records. Any of your grandparents have records? They're big, shaped about this big. And you put it on a turntable, and what happens? Spins and what? Plays music. He invented the first one, where you could actually record sound onto a disc. He had 150 patents for the telegraph, 141 dealt with storage battery, some with the telephone, some with the railroad. His other famous is the kinetotone or kinetoscope, which we know. So his big three, people say these are the big three: the light bulb, phonograph, and the motion picture camera. So the first moving pictures camera, that doesn't look right. Is it 2 M's?
No.
Okay. Then who else would be famous inventor?
His partner.
Alexander Graham Bell. He was the second, his most famous invention?
Hearing aid.
He'd look at these and go, what? What are you talking about?
Telephone?
Telephone. You guys like my new phone? You guys notice it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aren't I high tech now?
Yeah.
I actually learned how to take a picture with it today and send it to an email. I didn't need any help. I'll be asking you for help for other stuff though. So that's what this first section is about. So page 6, let's go to page 6, 14. So this first section is about inventors and inventions, and some of them are on here and some of them are. So, you know what else besides the telephone that Alexander Graham Bell actually did? He invented a machine that detects metal. They originally used it to do Abraham Lincoln to find out where what? What would you need a machine to detect metal for a brand new one? After John Wilkes Booth did what?
Assassinate.
Shot him. They needed to what? They need to find out where the bullet was. The machine malfunctioned though because the beds back then are not like our beds, okay? Our beds have these fancy mattresses. Back then, they had a mattress and they had a box springs that was actually made out of what? Metal springs, okay? And that interfered with the machine. I guess it wasn't Lincoln, it was Garfield, because Garfield was assassinated. So then, the other one famous here is Henry Ford, that some people mistakenly say Henry Ford did what?
Made the first car.
Made the first car, and that's not true, okay? The first automobile wasn't made by Henry Ford. The first automobile was made by a couple different people. You had Charles Duryea, you had Elwood Haynes, Ransom Olds, okay? All these guys. George Selden had the first patent on the automobile. Charles Duryea is considered the father of the automobile. Henry Ford is given credit with the automobile basically because he made it profitable. And we're going to learn when we study the 20s, is really when his automobile took off in the 1920s. Okay, so here's your assignment to read 614 to 618.
Okay.
614 to 618. And we're going to have last person standing Zoom meeting on, because this Friday we're just going to take the quiz and we're going to have some Christmas fun. Okay? So Friday's only the President's quiz. This you should take down names of inventors and inventions so you can be the winner of last person standing Zoom call that we have over distance learning time. That make sense?
Yeah.
Questions?
614 to what?
618.
The first section.
Okay.